Vittoria. These and others were the names that thrilled an Englishman in the decade that followed. And then the greatest of them all, Waterloo, the Iron Duke's culminating victory, which sent Bonaparte to his distant, fatal exile, and ushered in the concert of Europe on which an everlasting peace was to be built. Now, however, in 1827, 2 decades after Trafalgar, the pendulum of military fortune was swinging back. It was His Majesty's ships that would again make war in the cause of peace and of liberty. The slave trade was being vigorously suppressed, and a triple alliance of Britain, France, and Russia would oblige the Turks to quit Greek waters, the very cause for which Byron had died in the Peloponnese, and which Philhellenes throughout Europe had long promoted. The Royal Navy was at last resurgent. Men like Matthew Hervey's friend, Captain Sir Laughton Peto, who had thought themselves beached, would have their chance once more. But what of those in red coats? There were certainly far fewer of them than at any time in the life of all but the most grey-haired. Many were gaining a good dusting in far-flung corners of the growing empire. Hervey's own uniform, though blue not red, had had a good dusting in India and of late in the Cape Colony. But the growing use of the army to police the nation's agrarian, industrial, and political unrest made the cavalry unwelcome in some quarters. Peterloo was on the lips of many a rabble-rouser yet, and in the pages of the radical press. And when the explosive element of Catholic emancipation was added, coupled inextricably as it was with the condition of Ireland, society at times looked distinctly brittle. The old order was changing. The statesmen and soldiers who had brought Bonaparte to his knees and had managed to keep a lid on the unrest during the economic depression that followed were passing. New men gilded the ancient games. This, then, is Matthew Hervey's world, simple soldiering no longer his refuge. Family and friends are become equally a source of comfort and of disquiet. His future is on the one hand settled and propitious, on the other uncertain and discouraging. Thoughts of great deeds were mine, dear friends, when first the clouds which wrap this world from youth did pass. And from that hour did I with earnest thought heap knowledge from forbidden mines of lore. Shelley. And now, Man of War.
Chapter 1. A First-Rate Command. Gibraltar, 28th of September, 1827. The barge cut through the swell with scarcely a motion but headway, testament to the determination with which her crew was bending oars. In the stern sat Captain Sir Laughton Peto, R.N., his eyes fixed on their objective, His Majesty's ship Prince Rupert. Glorious sight against the backdrop of the rock. To Peto's mind, Rupert was in no measure diminished by the towering crag. Her 3 decks, her lofty masts, somehow outsoared the shadow of that pillar of Hercules. Neither were her batteries belittled by those of the massive Montague Bastion, which Peto himself had only lately quit. Impregnable as was the Citadel Rock, Rupert was yet the most powerful of His Majesty's ships at sea, a floating fortress able to send any of the King's enemies to the bottom, as her forebears had done 2 decades earlier, and not many leagues to westward. Any ship of the Royal Navy would look admirable at anchor in Gibraltar Bay, reckoned Peto. The Rock and the Nelson Checker were as perfect a unity as any he could think of. As perfect as if they had been in Plymouth Sound, at Spithead, the Nore, or at Portsmouth.